Hi, welcome to Citizen Survival Plan. Welcome back if you've been here before. In today's video, I want to talk about Midland radios and why I don't like them or recommend them to people. We have customers call and ask for us to program these radios from time to time, and we always tell them we can't. And that is the first issue with these Midland radios. None of them connect to CHIRP or any other programming software. I am not even aware of any Midland software that these can even plug into. Inside of CHIRP, there is one Midland radio, and I don't even think they even sell it anymore, and that unit does connect to CHIRP. These radios are very, very expensive, and I want to make a side note that these radios are not bad quality. They are just very limited. They are just very limited as far as features. So they're super expensive. They often double the price of a more capable radio like a B-Tech or something, and they come with less programming availability. Because these radios do not connect to CHIRP, you are unable to name any channels inside of the radio. So if you have a GMRS repeater in your area, and it's in Dallas or whatever, it doesn't matter, I cannot name it whatever it is. From the radios I've owned that were Midlands, they all did this. They had 8 repeater channels for GMRS. So if you had 2 repeaters in your area, and they were both on the same channel with different tones, let's say it was channel 16, and one was a tone of 141.3 and the other one was a digital, whatever that be, you would have to go into the radio on that specific channel and change the tone to switch back and forth to repeaters. A real radio that connects to CHIRP, you're able to add the same channel more than once and just upload your tones. That way you can have multiple repeaters that are on that same channel. The other problem with Midland tones is they make their own tones, or they label their tones as their own. And I think they did this to reduce confusion between their own handhelds and their base stations. But what it does is when you are out in the field, let's say you're off-roading or you need to punch in a repeater really quick or on the fly, you need their special tone chart to match what everyone else in the world labels their tones to Midland's tones. This just adds an extra level of complexity, and I've seen people struggle with this. It's just one of those things that just doesn't need to be. Most of Midland's, GMRS, or any of their walkie-talkies or even their base stations do not come with an actual keypad. So you cannot type in your local fire, police, or any sort of emergency services and or any ham frequencies into there to listen to. Their GMRS radios are like ultra safety restricted, so you can never ever even come close to bending a rule with any of their products. Typically speaking, a GMRS radio is simply just a dual band ham radio with transmit restrictions on it. So you cannot transmit on frequencies that are just not GMRS. So you get 22 GMRS simplex channels and you get 8 repeater channels that the radio will allow you to transmit on. And in Midland's case, you cannot even type in frequencies to listen to. This one is one that really bothered me, and it came from my experience owning, I believe it was the MXT115. Channels 8 through 14 by the FCC are limited to 1/2 watt. So Midland's base stations that put out more than 10 or 15 watts, like even their 50 watt ones, what they'll do is those channels, they can't bring the power down low enough on them. So what they do is just, they cut the transmit function out on those channels. So you're buying a GMRS radio that is even limited to how many GMRS frequencies that you're even allowed to transmit on. And at the price point Midland offers these at, they should absolutely make sure you at least get all of the GMRS frequencies. One product in particular I have to beat up on a little bit, and that is the GXT67. First of all, this thing's way overpriced for what it is. Let me just run through it really quick. First off, it has a non-removable battery pack. Now, I know this is to make this thing extra waterproof. People that buy our radios and radios in general generally are out and on the go, or they're for some sort of prepping activity or camping or whatever. I want to be able to pop new batteries in it as I'm out so I don't have to recharge or bring some sort of generator or solar generator or something with me to recharge the batteries. I just want to be able to pack an extra battery pack. This eliminates that. Also, a lot of the new Baofangs and Retevis stuff and all the Chinese manufacturers, they just put your cell phone charge port, I think it's a USB-C on the back, and it really makes things convenient. So this is a 5-watt GMRS radio, but one thing I want to point out, it looks like it has a non-removable antenna on it, and that antenna is going to be extremely limiting. A $20 Baofeng will outperform this radio in every way as far as range. Even if I took a UV5R, like an 8-watt model, or even if you bumped up to something that was $60, that's still not even as close to expensive as this, you could put it on low with an Abri 771 antenna or something and outperform this unit on high. As far as range goes, going to a repeater, or if you're just on the ground using simplex radio to radio transmissions. Last is this emergency radio kit that they have. I think it's a waste of money. That weather radio that they sell, you can just type the weather frequencies into a Baofeng radio and save yourself some money if you wanted to listen to weather. I also want to point out both of the radios in this kit cannot listen to ham frequencies. I'm not talking about transmitting on ham frequencies, but at least listen to them. I want to be able to type in some ham frequencies that are sky-worn repeaters. Now, why do I want to do that? You get much more information on a ham repeater that is a sky-worn repeater because local e-services and other people connected to this repeater will actually give live reports of downed trees, tornadoes, etc. These radios are only limited to listening to government stations. So you're going to get a lot more information if you just buy a ham radio. I know a lot of people are going to go, well, if you're not a ham, you shouldn't have a ham radio. I always disagree with that. There is absolutely nothing illegal about listening to ham radio. You can own all of the ham radio equipment in the world as long as you don't transmit on ham frequencies. You are breaking absolutely zero rules. Again, I also want to point this out. Most other GMRS radios, especially the Chinese ones, Baofeng, Retevis, I'm trying to think of all the names off the top of my head, but what they are is simply a ham radio that has restrictors on it for transmitting. So even if you had a GMRS radio, you could type in ham repeater frequencies and listen to Skywarn and stuff. All right, that wraps it up for this video. I didn't want to beat up on Midland, but people call me and they are always disappointed when I tell them about these programming restrictions, listening restrictions, and all these safety bumpers that are input into these radios. It almost makes them useless for emergency radios. Again, I want to point out that Midland's quality, the actual shell and the electronics of their radios, is very good. I just don't like how restrictive they are. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.